Hey everybody, welcome to another show. Um, catching an afternoon opportunity to do this during my lunch break. So over some Pine Creek shenanigans, and I'm coming at it with this new. Well, I've used this one before, EV Mux. Let me know if you can't hear anything or if things are going bad. Hopefully the sound is okay. Um, it looks like it's transmitting all right. It's been a long time since I've used this. I think it's been almost a year. Anyway, so Doug decided that what he was going to get into was I think I'm going to flip this around here a little bit. He has some direct answers. So he's had some frustration with the fact that these politicians just don't answer. They're not straight shooters enough, and they need to answer these questions more directly. So he has some suggestions here at this point in his one of his last live streams. He's going to present the questions that were asked to the candidates, and then he's going to provide his own answers. So I thought this might be interesting to kind of go over just to see what does Doug assume is happening. What's going on in the mind of these candidates? So I'm going to get into that right now. I hope everybody is doing good. I don't see anything going on there. Fabio's here and is asking me to check my email. Let me check my email. Oh my God. I had no idea. Well, thank you very much for that, Fabio. That's terrible news. Yeah, Fabio sent me an email letting me know that Gus Bellinger passed away. Gus was well known to me and others in the YouTube community for a while. From the Great Debate community and stuff, he'd been involved in this. Um, he was a hell of a debater, a hell of a conversationalist, and a nice guy. And he will be missed. I'm really sorry to hear that. I didn't realize, I didn't know that he was sick or anything like that, but that's too bad. So, yeah, keep any friends or family that he had in your thoughts. That's disappointing. Huh. What a bummer. I really liked him. He was a good guy. Well, on that sad note, I guess we get to go forward and cover election stuff. So, in that sense, I guess it's fitting. More sad news. It's not too sad, though. At least this part of the debate. Kamala Harris did pretty good in terms of needling Donald Trump. And so we're going to jump into that. So I don't have too much time before I got to get back to work. So I'm going to start playing this. Let me change the view here a little bit. We'll zoom in a little bit more, I guess. And if this isn't playing, let me know if you guys can't hear it, because let's see here.
Trump lost that debate in the sense of he did a horrible, rotten, terrible, excruciating, frustrating, bloviating, terrible, crazy, bad job. There. Thanks for tuning in. I might go live tomorrow. See ya. No, I'll keep going.
So not really pulling any punches there. Trump did a terrible job by all accounts, according to Pine Creek. Okay.
I do think politicians underestimate the positive impact of direct answers. A lot of people say, no, you can't actually tell the truth. You can't give direct answers because the people can't handle it. Yeah, they can handle it. Sure, some of them can, but most people can. Like, because I am so fair and balanced, I can put myself in the shoes of a very progressive liberal. And if Trump were to give direct answers, me as a very compassionate, loving, and caring, tree-hugging progressive liberal can listen to answers I strongly disagree with and say, but I respect he answered directly. I respect that we know where he stands. And
Yeah, I mean, kind of. The only problem with some of Trump's direct answers, though, if he does answer directly, is that he doesn't understand the question. So it's a little hard to expect a direct answer to something that he doesn't comprehend. But he will talk at you.
Trump totally failed at that.
Okay. So he's acknowledging.
And I don't think Trump can be fixed. I think it's, don't get me wrong, I'm still going to vote for Trump.
Trump or the campaign? Doug sounded pretty hopeless here.
Because there's the policies of his administration that I value more than the policies of the Harris administration.
Mostly the deport everyone right now.
But let's also be honest. The Democrats are not my people.
They're not mine either.
They're not. Anybody who uses the word equity in a positive sense is not my people.
Even in a financial sense?
My people reward and value success and strength where
they're authoritarians, or at the very least, just right-wing populists.
Whereas I sense the Democrat Party is one who values and rewards weakness.
You sense that, or they do that?
And if you're a left-winger listening to me right now, you say, oh, I can't believe he just said that. No. Are right-wingers your people? No. So let's be honest with each other and direct. When you're around right-wing people, if you're a left-winger, you don't feel comfortable, do you? Well, guess what? I don't feel comfortable. I probably feel more comfortable than you because I can handle it, and I've been around and had conversations with many, many, many people who I disagree with, so I can handle it better than you. But still, I don't feel 100% comfortable being around progressive people.
Really?
Some of the things...
I know a lot of my comments make him uncomfortable. He stopped responding to comments. He might have me blocked. I'm not sure. I don't think he does, but...
things they say, actually, even though I hope to be more dead inside, some of the things they say really bothers me. And
I would like to know more about that. What specifically is coming from progressives that bothers Doug? Even though he's striving to be dead inside and he's not going to react. What is it that's making him upset? It's like his security blanket. Yeah, it sure is.
Same as with you when you're with right-wing people, right? So let's be fair. Even if there was
I can hang out with right-wing people.
Policies with Trump that you agree with, you're still not going to vote Republican because they're not your people.
I'm not voting for Republicans because they're not my people. Republicans are Americans, last time I checked. Except for the Russians that hack into the voting. Never mind. Sorry. The Bulgarian hacker farm that switches some votes. They're not, but no. Republicans vote in ways that I find weird. They are still my people in that we are Americans. They are my neighbors.
You don't like them. And it goes both ways.
I mean, it's true. There are
I'm going to play this.
Establishment Republican figures I dislike. I do dislike a lot of those. And people who will respond to online discussions with Trump 2024, which is just insane. I would also cringe if somebody responded to some kind of online discussion with Harris 2024 as if they're winning an argument that way. But a lot of Trump fans seem to think that that's cool. I see that kind of behavior. I can kind of check that person off. Like, I probably am not going to have fun at the picnic with them.
I went through, I'd say 90%, maybe it's 80% of all the questions. And I got it chopped down to about 5 minutes, 6 minutes.
I'm going to hold him to that because I'm only going to be on
give
for an
everybody
hour.
here a dopamine rush on both sides of the aisle. I
Dopamine
want
from
you
Doug.
to feel good about direct answers. I'm going to try to steelman Harris.
Hey, Amy, no, I don't like you, Doug. Amy's willing to admit, Doug's not my people. Not voting with you. You're not welcome at the party.
Steelman Trump, but answer in a way that's direct and honest.
Okay, so he wants direct, honest responses from the candidates. He is going to attempt to steelman their answers and say what they should say or what's in their head or something like this. Now, I do want to point out, too, there's something kind of pointless about doing this, because the idea of giving a direct answer to some of these questions as the debate progresses, if you're limited to 2 or 3 minute responses, oftentimes you're not going to jump right into your answer to the question just posed. You're going to want to follow up with whatever was fresh in your head, a comment that you didn't get to finish in the last response, or a quick kind of little retort or dig at your opponent. I mean, those are going to be some of the margins that these people will play in. So as the debate goes on, the idea like, oh, well, they didn't answer directly and they didn't answer within 20 seconds, which is what I think he's kind of going with. That becomes less of an issue as the debate goes on, because there's other stuff being introduced from your opponent that you're going to want to take advantage of some of your time to deal with. So,
And some of you are going to disagree with, some of you are going to agree with. But either way, if you think I'm steel manning them properly, you're going to say, yeah, right on. Why couldn't they answer that way?
I'll explain why they can't, or why they didn't, to the best of my knowledge.
Here we go.
On the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
Okay. Well, let's listen to her answer first.
So
Remember the question. Do you believe that we're better off today than we were 4 years ago?
I was raised as a middle-class kid.
I was raised as a middle-class kid, blah, blah, blah. Nobody cares about you and how you were raised. The American people don't care about how you were raised.
That's not true.
Well, maybe a little bit, but not in reference to this question. Here's how you answer the question, Harris.
The way that you are going to get instructed on how to answer this, if you're dealing with like a sophisticated debate prepper, is to make sure that you take every opportunity with every answer to stick to talking points and channel your narrative, which is what she's doing. She's going back to how she was raised, her background, connection to the working class, blah, 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 blah. You want to take as much within that 2 minute response time that you got. You want to be able to direct the answer to a question to further your, because they're not just debating. It's less of a formal debate like you would see, like, you know, a college or high school forensics team would do, and it's a campaign debate. So it is about campaigning and getting your message out there as well. I don't know if this is missing. I think Doug understands that this is how the game is kind of played. I think he wants something where it's just more refreshing, where they just answer straight. Let's see if Doug's alternative to Kamala's response is a straight shooting one.
Again, I'm going to try to inject it with truth serum. No, we're not better off than we were 4 years ago. But a lot of these things are out of our control. The government can only do so much. The effects of COVID gave the American economy a big hit, as it did with other countries.
Yeah.
Yes, we made mistakes. We probably should have pulled back on some of the stimulus, which caused the inflation we have today. But we're going to learn from those mistakes.
Did we need to pull back on that when people were getting evicted or when people were unemployed?
Mistakes and move forward. So yes, 2016, 17, 18, 19, we're probably a little bit better than today.
That wasn't the question.
But we're going to work to fix it.
So his answer is no. The straight answer is, are you better off? Are Americans better off economically now than they were 4 years ago? By my math, and I'm by no means a math professor, 4 years ago was 2020. This time in 2020, I think there were still toilet paper shortages going on. Objectively, yes, all of us are better off economically than we were back then. Many people were unemployed and on the dole, which is something that conservatives absolutely hate. You have fewer people on unemployment now. So that is for them, that is also an objectively better thing economically than what is going on now. We're not talking 2016, Obama was still our president. That was an election year. And by my math, going from 2016 to 2019, that's 5 to 8 years away from now. 5 to 8 years ago, not 4 years ago. 4 years ago puts us smack dab late summer, early fall of 2020, when England was shutting down, when I think Italy was considering its second shutdown, because I think it was around this time of year Berlusconi came down with COVID. It was around about this time, I think it was September or October, that Trump came down and was rushed off to Walter Reed. So I know that there's a lot of like kind of willing amnesia in a lot of conservative and right wing populist style voters, but the direct, simple, plain language answer to the question: are Americans better off now than they were in 2020? Yep. You can buy toilet paper when you need it. Objectively better. I'm sure Doug he could probably roll out some of it. Look at the deficit or something like, yeah, no, that's not. Uh, who cares? I would then be like, no, what American cares about that? Plenty of Americans care that they could not get toilet paper and that there were meat shortages and grain shortages. There was a yeast shortage for being able to bake bread for an extended period of time during COVID. They used to have to, I remember you could go to Costco or something like that and they had to put limits on the amount of yeast packets and the bags of flour that you could get because people were hoarding those so they could bake bread. Yes, we're better off economically.
Wouldn't that be a nice, honest answer? Just say, no, we're not better off.
Actually, the only
We are better off. Is it just me, or is it insanely high on himself that he's like, I shall answer these questions better than these politicians. My wisdom and eloquence is far, far better than those of these fools. Partially, but I think a lot of it is just that, like, well, if you need plain spoken, real talk, then turn to Doug. Pine Nuts is saying that left wingers can't engage jerks like himself to preserve his illusion, and he's never been pwned, and he has been quite gloriously. Yes, yeah, that's happened. Let's see here. All right.
person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response, and you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration.
Okay, so what's the question?
What the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Okay, so the question is about tariffs. Tariffs are bad. It's going to cause inflation. If tariffs are bad,
they did keep several of the tariffs in place, but they ended up renegotiating a lot of the ones. So like the steel ones that Trump had put in place, they renegotiated into a quota system, from what I understand. There's still a tariff there, but it's not quite as strict. Most of the tariffs that were kept in place were primarily on China. But some of the other ones were renegotiated. There was one on appliances, I think, that originated out of South Korea, and some of the ones that specifically involve manufacture of things like solar panels and stuff. Those are still in place, but that's because it's a big emphasis for the Biden administration to see manufacture of renewable energy supplies and equipment happen here. Also, new tariffs were put in place with regards to electric cars. That whole scaremongering thing where they're going to force you to buy an electric car. That's not what they're doing. The mandate is on the production of cars, not people purchasing electric cars. And the tariffs are in place to make sure that the price, the Chinese manufacturers can't underbid, essentially, sneak in the market and undersell American manufactured EV cars. It's basic protectionism. That's what tariffs are for.
and it's going to cause inflation, a sales tax to the American people, then why hasn't the Biden administration taken off?
That is another good point, Otto. He did put tariffs on stuff that only gets made in other places, like specific types of cheese. Yes, there are some that are still in place under the Biden administration. There's specific sorts of luxury goods and things like that, to which you can still buy them. You just have to pay more for them, and they're not the kinds of. It's not like we've done what he's trying to say, which is, well, we're going to place one on everything that's manufactured overseas. Well, okay. So if I want to buy a slot toaster now, the only way I can get one is by paying $80 now because of the tariffs you just put on it. It's not my fault as a consumer that no American company makes those anymore. There's American companies that have them, but they're all manufactured over there and they bring them over. So Trump is just going to sort of single-handedly fix labor arbitrage by reversing course on American manufacturing. Like, you kind of want to do that first, and then you actually have a supply of those goods, and then you impose the tariffs on the foreign competitors so that American consumers have the choice to go and consume the American produced alternative and bolster that market. You don't impose it first and then hope that the market will figure out, well, people are really complaining about $900 toasters, so now they want to. So maybe there's an opportunity because of the tariffs in place. We're going to start a toaster manufacturing operation out in Arizona. Let's get that done.
All the tariffs that Trump put on. That's the question. Now, what would be the steelman answer that Harris can say? This is a tough one.
It's not.
The honest answer.
Academic and governmental studies find the Trump-Biden tariffs have raised prices and reduced output and employment, producing a net negative impact on the U.S. economy. That's exactly correct. And as a vice presidential candidate, all she has to do is say, you know what, I'm not entirely in agreement with our president on those tariffs. We have a difference of opinion, but it is his administration, and those tariffs were imposed. I follow his lead. I'm his vice president. But there's going to be some daylight in between where we go with things on this. And with some things, maybe not. I don't see a Harris presidency removing the tariffs for Chinese manufactured EVs. Trump's tariffs went really well, like the ones he put on steel and aluminum. Really well. Stephanie with a quote, the member of parliament who supports every proposal for strengthening this monopoly is sure to acquire not only the reputation of influencing trade, but great popularity and influence with an order of men whose numbers and wealth render them of great importance. Good old Adam Smith. Adam Smith did not like monopolies. And a lot of the stuff that we currently call our American system of capitalism, Adam Smith would have a real problem with.
I think would be, we like the tax revenue. We kept them on so we can collect the taxes.
I think they did partially, but that's not.
But maybe we need to rethink it, because maybe part of the reason why we have inflation today is because of Trump's tariffs, and it was just a huge lag time. Direct answer. Direct answer.
Or maybe not.
Answer is, yeah, maybe we should take them off. And I apologize to the American people for not convincing Biden to take them off sooner. But we really did like the tax revenue. Trump was right. It did bring in about $100 billion a year. If you don't believe me, look at the monthly Treasury report.
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America.
Voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
Great question. Great question. So remember what the question is. Why did you wait until 6 months before the election? Why did you wait 3.5 years to fix the border crisis? And would you...
Before he gets into this, they didn't wait 6 months. They were trying to pass legislation. Keep in mind, there's two distinct things happening here, which Doug is not going to draw. He's not going to put this in context. The action that Biden took 6 months before the election coming up here, the recent actions that he took were executive orders. And executive orders are relatively easy to overturn with some court decisions. Those particular ones I don't think have, although I think they were amended slightly, because those ones can always be kind of touchy. If you want to take a look at that, just take a look at all the executive orders that Trump tried to get through, especially with regards to immigration, the ones that were kicked out. Legislation is a more long-term, stable, stronger solution if you're trying to get something passed. So, like, why did you wait for 6 months? Well, the question is formed is proposed in the form of a lie. They didn't wait for 6 months. They had tried to get this legislation done. The legislation failed. And then as the numbers increased, Biden initiated. He did what he did not want to do. He had mentioned that he did not want to try to solve the problem through executive decisions. He wanted legislation. He wanted some kind of reform. That's what they were pushing for. They didn't get it. So then he did an executive order 6 months ago. Well, 3 months ago now at this point.
You have done anything differently? That's the question.
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs.
Nobody cares about that, Kamala. The question is, why did you wait 3.5 years? So here's a direct answer. Because we wanted a lot of Democrat voters to come in. And we honestly think that we have a reproduction problem in this country, and immigrants tend to breed faster than we Americans. And we because we wanted 3.5 years. So here's the question is.
Here's how he's answered, just in case you missed it.
Why did you wait 3.5 years? So here's a direct answer. Because we wanted a lot of Democrat voters to come in.
How are those people going to vote? We wanted a lot of Democrat voters to come in. How are they going to be able to vote? A lot of them are going to be asylum seekers. A lot of the ones that were connected to like the Venezuela refugee crisis and others, they're here as asylum seekers. That is what is on their paperwork. Many of them are still waiting for their asylum hearings. They're here legally, but they're pending a hearing. They do not have the ability to even register to vote, let alone go to polls and cast a ballot. And he believes that her direct answer to this question is, well, we wanted more Democrat voters, so we were just letting them pour in. And then he gets into this weird.
And we honestly think that we have a reproduction problem in this country, and immigrants tend to breed faster. And
what Democrat or progressive or leftist or liberal in any swing of the spectrum talks about this in this way? The only time I hear people talking about birth rates and America needing breeding room or breeders are the weirdos in right-wing populist circles who think in these terms. There's a critical shortage of people. Usually, if you dig down a little bit deeper, it's a critical shortage of the right kind of people. Replace R in right with WH, and you're getting closer to what their problem is.
Than we Americans. So we have a Social Security problem. So we wanted a surge of immigrants to come to this country to help with our reproduction, help with our taxes, to stimulate the economy.
Okay, it was acknowledging that immigrants are good for the economy, because they are. Something that I've talked about quite a bit. So is he getting there? I don't think that he is. Jefferson, would you be interested in doing a show going over Trump's answers, Mirror and Pinecone stream, basically? Yeah, maybe. Nitty says, that's replacement theory language. Yeah, I don't know of any progressive or Democrat or anybody that would even use that, would try to even talk like this. So Republicans do. Not even all Republicans do. A lot of conservatives do. The breeding stuff is so weird. Birth rates going down is objectively good. Yep. MAGA has trained Doug to fall for the new biggest lie that not only is our election rigged, but illegal immigrants are being used to cheat. Yeah, he still loves talking about it. Like, oh, we can do an experiment and see how many of them can get away with it. Nice that Peanut's wardrobe is this nice brown shirt. Excellent choice. Yeah.
And we realized the American people after 3.5, it took 3.5 years for us to realize the American people thought this was too much, and so we had to back down. There's a direct answer, and
and it's bullshit. That is a bullshit answer.
Probably the truth.
No, it isn't. Is anything about Kamala Harris in the past few years that Doug has been acquainted with American politics said that she is interested in, one, having a bunch of asylum seekers come over so they can vote? First of all, that requires illegal activity. So I would love for him to try to substantiate how that's happening. Two, that there's a breeding issue going on and we really want these immigrants over so that they can do the breeding for us. Does that sound consistent with Kamala Harris's positions on anything? No. Oh, and then it was going on for a while, and then people were raising a fuss. So now that we're 3.5 years into Biden's first term, I guess we had to decide to do something about it. Okay, let me just raise an issue here. If Harris and Biden wanted as many people as possible to pour over the border during this term so that they could get Democrat votes, why did they allow Title 42 to remain in place so that border control could continue to bounce people back and not take their asylum claims? Title 42 was justified by the COVID pandemic, and it didn't lose effect until 2023. It was in effect for a full 2 years of the Biden-Harris administration. So none of this, in Doug's fevered mind, makes any sense at all. If they were working that way, it would be inconsistent of them to maintain Title 42, a Trump proposal, a Trump executive order that allows the Border Patrol to just not hear people's asylum complaints and to automatically remove them due to pandemic concerns. Your move, Doug. That is a phenomenally stupid thing to say. Just bizarre.
We were forced to. We weren't forced to in the first year. We weren't really forced to in the second year. Third year, we started to realize, maybe the American people didn't want this.
The first and second year were the same as Trump's, Doug. Title 42 was in place. They were kicking people back. All the issues that were surrounding Title 42 were in place. Title 42 did not get removed until, I think, the end of February of 2023. It was the beginning of 2023.
So we thought it was a good idea to do something.
This is just fantasy, and not even a good one.
Because, I mean, there's no chance we would have that I would get reelected if Biden get reelected if we didn't do anything.
They took heat from left-wing groups and pro-amnesty, pro-immigration groups. Their administration took heat because they kept Title 42 in place. Doug would know this if he read.
So we had to do something. So it was purely political of the timing. There's a truthful answer.
Human beings.
That the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S. military.
Police, yes.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah.
Well, he said yeah, but I don't think he said yeah to, which is a direct answer, and I appreciate it, but I don't think he said
He wants them to.
yeah to, would you go door to door?
They would. Some of that will happen in some neighborhoods.
But the question is, 11 million, 20 million, whatever the number is, how are you going to deport them? Walk us through this. Another great question.
They're going to spend a lot of money, and it's going to hurt the economy. That's how they're going to do it.
Listen to Trump's answer.
It is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many millions of criminals.
You've said this 1,000 times, Trump. We don't have to hear it another time. Shut your mouth. How are you going to deport 20 million people? What's done is done. They messed up. We get it. But how are you going to deport 10, 20 million people? How?
It's 11. And the interesting thing about this, I do want to point this out. I don't know if Doug understands this. The people that have come over, like during the most recent refugee crises that have hit, those people are not getting deported with this. The 11 million people that they're talking about are 11 million people who are not appropriately documented here now, and many of them have lived here for an extended period of time. They're the ones that are going to get deported. Those individuals that came over the border that Fox News was doing all the pearl clutching about, they are asylum seekers, many of them. They're still waiting for their court dates. They're not getting deported. The 11 million that they're talking about deporting probably have been here for 5 or more years, in some cases maybe even a decade. They probably are married, or they have connections with friends, family here in the U.S., neighbors, possibly kids. The kids won't be deported, but they will be. So there's a lot of kids that are going to lose their parents. Their parents are going to be shipped off to a home country, and that's it. That's what he's planning to do. And Trump is going to say, oh, it's because they're criminals. Well, what's their crime? They came here, they got an asylum court date, they overstayed a tourism. Who knows how that happened 10, 15 years ago. But they're here. They don't have the appropriate documentation. They got to go. There's a reason that the Dreamer Act is kind of popular, because the idea is that you're not upsetting whole communities. You're not dividing families. If you're grabbing people who are like asylum seekers who just recently came here, you can grab them and you send them over. They did that with the COVID thing. They justified it by the fact probably shouldn't have that much human mobility during a novel pandemic, but it was improperly handled and disturbingly employed. But this whole thing right here, this isn't going to change. This does not change the border. And for guys like Doug, and for a lot of people that are concerned about immigration, their idea about immigration are those visuals that they get from places like Newsmax and Fox News and others, where they're showing people just running across the border. It makes Doug upset. Doug gets upset when he sees images like that, just as upset as when he sees like video footage of retail theft. But the deportation of the 11 million people that Trump is talking about here, that's pertaining to this question, those people are not those recent crossers. They are not those recent asylum seekers. Many of these people have already been here for a long time. They have established roots here. Just so that they understand what's going on. And they're going to be leaving family and friends behind. But their removal is going to have an effect on their immediate local community. And the immediate local community will not have a say in whether or not those people can stay. Trump has decided that those people have to go.
Oh,
that sucks, Ken Hovitz.
let me try to steelman him.
I hope the onion rings were good.
We are going to go door to door. We are going to use local police departments and the military. We might even have to give incentives to American citizens and pay them $100 for a tip, saying, "Hey,
for information or for that, they don't have to do that.
my neighbor's undocumented." And then we're going to load.
Oh, Stephanie, he did. He did. In fact, I'm going to play it here, I think, before I sign off.
Them in buses. Maybe we'll do this. Maybe we'll we'll announce it on national TV. You have 1 week to leave the country.
1 week.
But if you stay and we catch you, you're in big trouble.
They already are in big trouble. If a deportation order goes through, they're technically deported, even if you only give them a week. They're not allowed back in. Based on the current one, I don't think that they're ever going to be allowed. They'll never get authorized to come back into the country, based on current immigration law. So whatever Doug is talking about there, that's horseshit. And you're going to tell somebody who's got, let's say it's a woman that's been here and she's married and she's got a couple kids. You're going to basically be sending a mom. You're telling her she's got a week to say goodbye to her husband and her kids, and she's got to go back to her home country, and she can never return. I mean, if you're okay with it, you're okay with it. If you're dead inside, I guess you're dead inside. But I don't think that's good policy.
We might throw you in jail for 6 months. We might confiscate everything you have in another country and
what?
And coerce governments of your home country. If you have any assets there, we're going to seize them.
That's assuming that they have remunerations going back home. You don't know that that's what's going on. And I don't think the American government has the ability to do that. Not over an immigration flub. Maya, I went crawling back to Evie Muxu. Did you? I was wondering if you did. StreamYard raised their prices. It ticked me off. Clearly, the immigrants need someone to come on TV and use their dad voice. That will work. Excuse me.
We're coming for you. You ought to be fearful, but we'll give you 1 week to leave on your own. He could say something like that.
That's a mom you're telling that to. That's a dad with kids. That's a brother or a sister with family here. You should be afraid. You got a week to get the fuck out. Okay. If they're an adult and they've been here for a decade and a half, they've been paying taxes without representation. And they deserve this attitude from New American here. Why? Our latest Canadian import? Why do they deserve that kind of grief from him? Oh, I remember. It's because Doug did it the right way. He still doesn't understand how voting registration works, but he did everything else the right way. By the way, ever since I watched the debate, I wondered if Trump thinks that illegal aliens are the ones depicted in the old TV series Visitors. Well, I mean, a lot of the QAnon types think that there's secret lizard people running around going for that adrenochrome. So I think maybe he is a little inclined to think that.
Now, this would totally make people, progressives on the left, go absolutely crazy. But a part of them say, well, at least we know. But this is a tough question and a tough task.
They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And then now in the...
Yeah, so Trump, you need... shut up about this. I think the country already knows this. You've said it 1,000 times.
United States...
Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not.
So
a lot of her policy positions I don't think have changed. She backed off the position where she wanted to decriminalize border crossings, but I think she's backed off that. And she is reversed course on outright banning fracking. But let's just be clear. I think that if she was to allow fracking, I think under a Harris-Walz administration, probably going to have some restrictions to it that conservatives won't like.
your values have not changed. So why is your policy changing? Let me
That's not
just
inconsistent.
give you the direct answer. Because I won't get elected if I change my policies to match my values. I can't get elected.
She could get elected just fine being against fracking. She could be outspoken against fracking. Case in point, Bernie Sanders, who would have beaten Trump in 2016. And Hillary Clinton was not against fracking. Sanders was. Sanders would have beat him.
Ms. Moderator, you think if I enforce the policies that reflect my values, I could ever get elected? No. So I have to moderate. There's a direct, honest answer.
Not changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of.
But it's not an honest answer. And it's not her answer. Why would she answer that way? And politically, it doesn't make any sense. There's no reason to think that an anti-fracking candidate couldn't win. It's just not that big of an issue.
At least every point that you've made, but
I should say it's not that big of an issue for voters. It is a big issue for the environment, but for voters, it doesn't rank that high.
in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States, and in fact,
Okay, so what she's saying here is, I won't ban fracking, even though I really, really want to. I want to ban frack.
How does he know how much she wants a thing? I don't understand. He needs to be more dead inside. How does he know that she wants this, one way or the other?
That's my values. But I won't, because I can't get elected if I say I will.
There are plenty of people who value the environment and think that some amount of fracking can be done. There's room for discussion there.
I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have
telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just
So the question is, do you regret anything about January 6th, how you handled yourself?
said a thing that isn't covered peacefully and patriotically.
The question is, do you regret?
I said during my speech, not later on.
Or the president?
So Trump, this is how you answer that question. You could answer it. I'm not exactly sure how you would answer this, like what you truly believe. But my guess is what you truly believe is, no, I don't regret anything. So this is how you answer. Do you regret anything that happened on January 6th, how you conducted yourself? No, because I told them to go peacefully and patriotically. And if they still didn't believe me then, what would it have mattered if I said go home 30 minutes later?
It made a big difference to the people that testified that they were waiting to hear something from Trump. When he told them to pack it up, they did.
I told them this. They disobeyed me.
No, they didn't. He said that they had to show strength and they had to fight like hell.
So, that small fraction percentage, there was 120,000 people there and about.
When you tell a group of people that are obsessed with 1776 and think they're going to be cosplayers for another U.S. Revolution, and their favorite line from Thomas Jefferson, despite everything that he's, anything else that he's ever said or contributed to culture, is the tree, the tree of liberty needs to be watered with the blood of patriots. That's what they mean by patriotically. Would be more akin to that blood of patriots. Water that tree with the blood of patriots.
2,000 went into the Capitol, and of the 2,000, maybe only 10% were actually really violent. So that very tiny percentage, if they're not going to listen to me when I say go peacefully, what difference would it have made if I said go home like 30 minutes after it happened instead of 2 hours or 3 hours? So no, I don't regret it. That's how he should have answered. Or he can say, yes, I do regret it. I should have been more forceful in telling.
That would have been a lie. He was very outspoken about making sure that individuals who were armed got in when they informed him that there were security issues. He was like, no, let him in. I am going to change this view. I want to play this one last bit here. Let's do this. All right. So Stephanie Helms had asked if he weighed in on the whole Haitian thing, the pet eating thing. Here it is. So let's embiggen this. I'm going to play this. Hopefully you guys will be able to see this. Here we go.
Very reasonable to say that the majority of Haitians believe in some version of voodoo. Fact. You can look this up. And you can say it's a lower percentage. In fact, I've seen as high as 70% of Haitians believe in the religion of voodoo. Of those 70%, a smaller proportion believe in animal sacrifice. And after they sacrifice, they eat the animal. This is true. How often does that happen? I don't know. But let's say it's 10% of the time, or 5%, or even 1%. So if let's say it's 1%.
Okay, I don't know what that syncing thing was, but something happened. So I apologize for that. Thanks, Evie Mux. Looks like Talk Studio is going to be experimented with next time. Holy shit. Holy crap. I don't know if I'm back or not. Yep, no, it's back. Okay. It's that little animated bouncing ball they got going on up there. Did that play through the entire app? Okay, I think it did. Jadis is saying, oh my, yeah, okay. I think it did. Pragmatic Crystal, thank you very much for that. Okay, I think, yeah.